Hi everyone, it's Robert P. Smith from Money Time Coaching. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I promised you guys always to give you helpful content. That's exactly what I'm doing here.
My name is Lesley Tenaglia. I am a mortgage specialist. I have been a mortgage specialist for over a decade, and I've been focused on co-ownership and this type of purchase and mortgage for almost a decade. I got into it because when I first started doing mortgages, my clients were having to leave the city. They didn't want to, it was begrudgingly, but there was the only place they could afford was far outside of the city. So I looked for a alternative option, potentially a little more creative, to allow them to maybe consider staying. And then I fell into co-ownership as a way of access, co-buying. As I mentioned in the beginning, what got me into co-ownership and this type of transaction is access. And so when you're looking at co-ownership financially and for access, I usually just use the terms combine, leverage, and split. It allows you to combine multiple capital upfront to increase how much you have for the down payment and to be able to afford the closing costs. It allows you to leverage multiple incomes to help you qualify for more, which is a good thing, but we're also going to talk about that risk down the road. By leveraging multiple incomes, you can qualify for more of a mortgage, which allows you to have better options for housing. And it helps you split. We all know homeownership is an expensive venture. And so therefore you can split not only the monthly mortgage payment, property taxes, utilities, repairs, maintenance. So it helps a lot for your monthly budget and cash flow. Where to start? The first place you need to start is do your own personal budget. If you're a couple, you can do a couple's budget. If you're an individual, do your individual budget. Understand how much you have upfront to put towards for a down payment. Understand how much your monthly cash flow can afford for a maximum mortgage payment. Make sure you check your credit so you understand what your credit score is. And if there's any errors on your report, start fixing them right away because it takes a lot of time if you find an error on your report to get rectified. Make sure your taxes are up to date and that you've paid the CRA. If the lender finds out during the process that you owe money to the CRA, they may very likely and probably will say, we're not giving you a mortgage until you pay the CRA. And make sure that you lower your balances on your credit, other credit products. So you want to make sure you maintain a level of 50%. So if your limit's $2,000, try and make sure your balance doesn't really exceed on a regular basis over $1,000. Once you have your own personal budget done, bring it to the group. I always say you have to get financially naked. I know it kind of feels weird. Basically, when you're co-owning and you're getting together on a mortgage together, you're financially getting married. So you want to make sure there's no skeletons in the closet. If there are and they're discovered as you're going through the process, it can really hinder the whole opportunity. So have a very transparent talk about your credit, your income, your employment, and then bring your individual budget to the group. So you want to know how much the group has for a down payment and how much the group can afford on a monthly basis for a monthly mortgage payment. Really important to note that not all will be equal. A lot of people think, okay, we're all going to bring in exactly the same amount of money. We're going to pay exactly the same amount every month for the monthly mortgage payment. More often than not, it doesn't work out that way. So just the group budget, you'll determine this, and you have to be flexible with everybody. Unfortunately, lenders will not fractionalize a mortgage. And that means when 4 people go in to buy a property, in order to be on title, all 4 people also have to be on a mortgage. You're sharing the mortgage with other people. So you have to, in your mind, be prepared to consider yourself 100% responsible for 100% of the mortgage. It's really, really important. If every month or every 2 weeks, whenever you decide, the lender's going to put their hand into your bank account and withdraw the funds for the mortgage. If Joe hasn't paid his portion, the lender doesn't care. The money is not there. The group itself is in default. It's not going to look to your co-ownership agreement to say, oh, Joe's the one who's in default, not everybody else. But you're leveraging multiple incomes to afford this mortgage payment. If I want to go after this mortgage is closed and buy a car, get car financing, when the car financer pulls my credit report, it's not going to say, oh, Lesley's portion is $2,500. No, it's going to say the monthly mortgage on her name is $6,000. Loans are provided by a percentage of your income to your debt. So that full debt of that full mortgage payment will be on your credit and therefore it could hinder your ability to get future credit products. If you are somebody who's responsible with credit, my suggestion is to get a personal line of credit before this mortgage. Get it and forget it. But if you're the type of person who gets a credit product and likes to spend it, forget what I just said. Forget it. Okay. But that will help you down the road if you can't access credit because of this large mortgage, that you have something on the side to help you out. Again, we have leveraged multiple incomes to help qualify you for a mortgage. If you need to make a change to your mortgage, you need to re-qualify with the lender, and that is a new application. But if the people's income or somebody's income level has decreased in that time, and you need to re-qualify for whatever reason, you want to refinance, somebody's coming off of the mortgage, what have you. If the level of income has decreased, you have to be prepared. You might not qualify for the new mortgage that you need. Really, really important. So when I said combined leverage split, we do leverage people's incomes, but we have to have that in mind as well. What happens if someone is nearing retirement and we know they're going from a $200,000 income down to a $75,000 income in the near future? What does that look like? So these are conversations we have to have. We want to always have a little wiggle room. Let's imagine there's two couples, 4 people, buy a $1.5 million duplex. The upfront down payment's $300,000. That's a lot of money. But if you divide that by 4 to look at it at a per person basis, it's a lot less. I divided it by 2, so it's $75,000 per person, or $150,000 for a couple. That makes the mortgage $1.2 million, or if you split that in half, $600,000, or on a per person level for 4 people, it's $300,000. Using today's rates, and you're looking at a monthly mortgage payment of about $6,650. Add some property taxes to that. So on a monthly basis, it's about $72,50. Divide that by 2. It's $3,625, much more manageable. But if you divide that on a per person basis, is $1,800. But you can see right away, oh my gosh, it's going to cost me $7,200. $250 a month. Oh my goodness, down to $1,800. It's much more palpable, much more affordable for your individual budgets. Closing costs, really important to discuss. The biggest closing costs you're going to face, especially on properties in this kind of level, $1.5 million, land transfer taxes. Ever heard of those? In Toronto, us lucky Toronto folk have to pay 2. We have a municipal and we have a provincial. And so on a $1.5 million property, your land transfer taxes are the bulk of your closing costs in Toronto. So here it's about $53,000. Okay, there's the first time home buyers rebate, which you can have, which is great, but it's a drop in the bucket at these levels. Okay, it's $8,000 in Toronto or $4,000 outside of. So the closing costs on a $1.5 million property on its own is $57,000. Divide that by 2 for 2 couples, we're looking at $28,000. Still a lot of money, but more manageable. If you look at it on a per person basis, is $14,000. So again, breaking it down, it really illustrates how co-ownership can be much more affordable. And some tips: make sure you open some joint accounts, joint account for maintenance, a slush fund. Remember I said, if somebody doesn't pay the mortgage, you're all in default. The way to help mitigate that is to have a slush fund of 3 months mortgage payments, so that if Joe says, oh my gosh, next week I'm not going to have the money, you don't have to freak out right yet. You have this slush fund to help you buy the time to try and rectify the problem. Advocate for yourself. If anything, during this process, you are making a massive decision and making a massive commitment to other people. If something doesn't sit well with yourself, you have to find your voice and speak up. There's a lot of elements, there's a lot of documents in this mortgage process. Okay, mortgages used to be really easy to get when I first started. Now they're much, much harder. There's a lot more documents for fraud purposes, for due diligence. And so just provide the documents in a speedy time to help the process go quickly and more smoothly. Again, don't expect everything to be equal, because it probably won't. People have varying budgets that will allow them different amounts for the mortgage payment, and they'll have differing amounts to bring in for the down payment and closing costs.
Subscribe now.